Everybody, good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's having a great Saturday. Um, Welcome to my new series. This is going to be just like it says, wrapped a riddle wrapped in. I'll get my tongue saying it, and then I guess we can talk about it. A riddle wrapped inside of an enigma. So I'm giving everybody a few more minutes to get in here before I get started. I hope everybody's enjoying their Saturday, even though it's a little cool on the side where I am. It's a little cool. Yesterday it was like 60, and today it's like, I don't know, 47 degrees. But it is 47 degrees and sunny. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with this. Again, this is just a summary to the beginning of the case that I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to make it into a series because it's just too big to cover in one setting. And with that, let's just get started. On the 12th of February in 1993, at the age of 2 years old, James Patrick Bogner was murdered. He was abducted, tortured, and killed by two 10-year-olds. Their names were Robert Thompson and James Venable. John Venable, excuse me. Robert Thompson and John Venables, S on the end of that. And James, he was led away from his mother when she was in the butcher shop in the New Strand Shopping Center in Bootley, England. So James's mother contacted security as soon as she realized her son wasn't with her and was missing, and so the police were called. The police came to the shopping center as soon as they can, and when they were reviewing the shopping center's CCTV footage, they saw Robert Thompson and John Venables had approached James before taking him by the hand and leading him out the shopping center at about 3:42 in the afternoon. So Thompson and Venable led James from there to the railroad tracks about 2.5 miles away in Walton, Liverpool. They walked him right out the door. And this would later be confirmed by witness statements who saw the three boys walking together at the time, and they all assumed that they were family. Once arriving at the railroad track, Thompson and Venables threw paint in James's face, so some of which went into his eyes. His left eye, to be in fact, I don't know how they knew it specifically, went into his left eye at that moment. I don't know, but it was specifically said that they hit him and threw paint into his face, and some of it went into his left eye. The boys threw stones at him, kicked at him, and beat him with bricks. I'm trying to fix my little. They hit him with that iron bar and a partially rusted railway plate that was 20 inches long and weighed about 22 pounds. Before leaving the body, Thompson and Venables laid James across the railroad tracks and placed rubble over his head in the hopes that a train would hit him and make his death appear to be an accident. and after they left the scene, James's dead body was cut in half. His mutilated body was found on the railroad line 2 days later on February 14th, 1993. This is the tracks. If you look over that tent right there, you can see the top of the bridge, and that would be this bridge right here. So, according to the map, you can see how far they walked. It's a pretty good distance. It looks a good distance to me, anyway. The first breakthrough in finding James's killers occurred when a woman called the police after she recognized the CCTV images of two boys, Thompson and Venables, on national TV. She said she had seen the two boys the day James went missing and knew they were skipping school. The police responded to the woman's call, and the two boys were arrested. Forensic evidence was found and submitted to the jury as it was vital to the prosecution. DNA testing was used to match the blood found on the shoe to that of the victims. Forensic DNA testing is a process that begins with DNA being isolated from the cells, and in this case, blood cells. And then it is duplicated by a process called polymeresis and chain reaction. So this process copies a specific stretch of DNA over and over, making it easy to analyze. So we have serious scientific things being used right out the gate on this case. One piece of evidence that put Tom and Venables at the scene of the crime was blood found on the right shoe of one of them. It doesn't tell us which one, but one of them. Forensic scientist Graham Jackson said there was only a 1 in a billion chance of error of that blood getting on that shoe. 1 in a billion. That's not a good favor working for you if it's your shoe. The genetic code is split into separate chunks and then analyzed to create the genetic fingerprint. Now, unlike actual fingerprints, there's a small chance that two different people could have the same genetic markers, especially if they are related to one another. To minimize the risk of error, scientists test more than one genetic marker from a strand of DNA. And James's blood was also found on several bricks and on the 22-pound iron bar. So this case is going to have to be a lot of forensic evidence. I think so. So forensic pathologist Dr. Alan Williams counted 22 wounds on James's head and face and another 20 on his body. Let me say that again. 22 wounds on his head and face and another 20 on his body. The wounds were so numerous that a final killing blow could not be established. Dr. Williams determined that James would have already been dead by the time the train hit him, as he had been struck already at least 30 times. and would have endured a short period of survival after the attack began. So he did not die. They didn't like beat him to death and he just died. No. They beat him with a lot of blows, at least 30, and he was still alive and moving. So, he survived a short period of time. Yeah, wow. The deep bruising on James's head, along with the cut that went to his skull, and the extensive damage to the back of his head, suggested that bricks and an iron bar had been used. And James sustained extensive head injuries, including a hemorrhage at the center of his brain. Dr. Williams, also a forensic pathologist and emergency physician in pathology, also noted a severe blow to James's face that left a large bruise and groove mark on the area around the cheek and ear, which leads forensic scientist named Philip Raybeard was able to match the markings on James's right side. He was able to match the marking on James's right cheek with a shoe worn by one of the two boys, because the shoe had an unusual arrangement of lacing rings, as well as distinctive stitching pattern. So they identified one of the two boys by the top portion of the shoe, not the bottom, like most cases do with footprints. They identified by, I guess, kicking on the face so hard that it left an imprint of the stitching of the shoe along with the shoelaces. So, paint found at the crime scene and on James's body was also found on the clothes of Thompson and Venables. Now, the paint, well, that could be analyzed in a few different ways to find a match. That could be solvent tests, gas chromatology, and infrared spectrometry. I think it's right. Sorry. Solvent testing involved exposing the paint samples to different chemicals and examining any changes that might take place, like a change in color or something like that. And the gas chromatology was used to tell the difference between the two paints that have the same color but may have a different chemical composition. The paint sample is heated until it breaks down, and then it's separated into two components on the infrared spectrometry, which makes use of the infrared light to determine the type of paint by examining the way the paint, various components absorb or reflects infrared light. So you can have the same paint that look the same, but when light is on them, they do not react the same or appear the same under that light. Excuse me a second, I got a good sip of my drink. So, paint spectrometry played a huge role in this, along with 38 witnesses, which I can't figure out how we have 38 witnesses in this case, and yet nobody stopped it or let it get to the point where this was done or happened to the little kid. I guess it's because they're kids. They thought they were all together. I don't know. But over the course of the trial, 38 witnesses took the stand and said they'd seen James walking with Thompson and Venables, none of which could have foreseen the events that unfolded later that day. I mean, I guess that's true because they were all kids, so they just, I guess, thought they were. Well, I wonder why nobody questioned them about being out of school, because at least two of them were the age to be at school and shouldn't have been in the street. Um, so, in addition to the 27 bricks, stones, and the 22 iron rod used as weapons, like if this isn't bad enough already, all of that was used by Thompson and Venables were all presented in court to eliminate any idea that the boys might be innocent. Wow. There is a big section of this story that I am just leaving out at this time because this is just a summary of this case. So this whole thing is going to be, I'm fixing to give a conclusion for it. I presented all the main bullet points of this story, and to conclude, the forensic evidence provided during the trial of Robert Thompson and John Venables was crucial to the prosecution. The DNA evidence from the traces of blood found on their clothes, as well as the shoe mark left on James's cheek and the paint found on both the victim and the perpetrator's clothing, provided absolute proof that Thompson and Venables had been at the scene of the crime, backed up by CCTV footage and witnesses. This evidence led to the prosecution of the youngest murderers in the UK history. So, I hope y'all come back for part 2, where we're going to get in and dig deeper into this case. So make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. And we're going to, like I said, as we dig in deeper into the next segment, part 2 of James and the Children of Crime. Thank you and have a blessed day.